It's time that we're joined once again by our good friends from the BerkshireEdge.com. Marcy and David join us on a weekly basis. We rebroadcast it on the weekend, and we just take really a fraction of the stories that they publish at the BerkshireEdge.com. Good morning, all. Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Yes. Right. Now, did you get much snow there? We got about an inch of snow at my house. Did you get any snow there?
Yeah, we
Get
got
a little dusting up
Yeah,
there.
we got. It's already melted.
Yeah.
Well, it's on the trees out there. I can see it on the tree branches.
It's probably about a third of an inch.
Yeah. Well, it just shows that the next week's going to be chilly, but then for Thanksgiving, we might be in shirt sleeves for Thanksgiving. You never know.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
It might warm up for Thanksgiving. Okay, so
Awesome.
let's get to some of these stories because there's a lot going on in those there hills. And once again, you've got a story that's a little frightening for administrators of the cultural organizations that are in our area.
Oh, yes. We're talking about the salaries and equity for employees of cultural organizations.
Yeah.
And it's there was a multicultural bridge, which is one of the nonprofit organizations up here, convened a what they called an inclusive leadership cohort to look at salaries for entry level and mid level employees in the cultural organizations in the Berkshires and in Columbia County in New York that are part of the so-called cultural world here in the Berkshires. And what they found was that salaries are not so great for people who are working in this sector, and it's especially difficult because the high cost of housing in this area makes it tricky for people to live here.
Yes, I mean, they part of this also has to do with equity and inclusion. That these nonprofit organizations pay less. They often pay less. I mean, they rely on people wanting to work, for a good cause or follow their passion, but not necessarily get paid. And the problem is that people who don't have other resources can't take these jobs because they can't afford to. And so, as a result, the observation has been made that it's not it's not equitable. I mean, people of color or people who come from low-income neighborhoods are not able to take these kinds of jobs. So this is a push, and it's been joined by a number of important nonprofit groups. To try to, it's unclear to us, though, whether, what exactly they're going to do about it, because, where's the money going to come from? I mean, it's good to consider paying people equitably, but it's, where is the money going to come from?
So, well, we cite some rather startling figures from the town manager in Great Barrington put together some figures that the median list price for a house in Great Barrington is now $637,000. Can you imagine? And
that's the median.
That's the median.
Right.
And that, according to the town planner, Chris Rimbold, to afford even a $300,000 home, a family of four would need to have an annual income of $90,000, which is...
So you can't work in the nonprofit sector at a low wage and be able to afford to live.
It's one of the things we face that challenge here because we have a mixture of volunteers and paid people, and our paid staff if they're brand new and they're young, they start $1 over minimum wage because it's part-time work. But once they're here, we bump it up each year, and we do our best to try to, because most of our people that like to work at the bargain barn, they're part-time. They're retired, but they still need that income. And here at the station, it's more full-time. So it's a delicate balancing act. As a nonprofit, to pay people what you can pay them, to help them live, and then to keep your business going.
Right. Now, we have the same issue here at the Edge, as you can imagine.
Yeah. But, this is a... it's interesting that this has been pointed out, though, because it really puts this so-called cultural world into a real perspective, I think.
And
right,
also,
but the issue is, where's the money going to come from?
Yeah.
And that's, now we, as we have spoken many times, there is a major issue of affordable housing. If it costs if you have to make $90,000 to buy a house that is only half of the median price. If you can find one that sells for $300,000 when the median is $690. So you can't find a house, you can't afford a house, and there isn't enough. I always have said that the business of the Berkshires is philanthropy, because this is we are populated with nonprofit organizations.
Yeah, and like I said, it also puts an unwarranted onus on the nonprofits. Yes, there are some that take advantage, but for the most part, these nonprofits really do benefit life in the community. And
absolutely,
and
it's what makes people want to come here.
They tried their best, and it puts an onus where it really shouldn't be put. When you discuss this.
Right.
Yep.
And also another figure in our article is that Berkshire County alone is home to more than 350 501c3 not-for-profit organizations, and 35% of those, or 120, are in the category of arts and culture.
Yeah.
So that still means that there are 200, 120. There are 2/3 of them are not arts and culture. They are, they are
service organizations.
Of
various sorts. Yeah.
Right.
It's like I said.
And their salaries are anywhere between $35,000 and $70,000 annually,
which is not enough to live,
and not enough to buy a house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a sticky problem, and once again, it all comes down to, and you said it, affordable housing.
Yes, it does.
And
it does.
It's a plan that should have been worked on 20 years ago, and
right.
and it's really hard to dig itself out from the situation that it's in. Well, let's go to the Great Barrington Selectboard. Once again, the Housatonic School building is back in the news.
Oh yes. This poor old building there. Anyways, the Select Board is now reviewing a second proposal to redevelop the Housatonic School building that overlooks the little hamlet of Housatonic, which is part of the town of Great Barrington. But the question has always been what to do with the once the Southern Berkshires consolidated, and Great Barrington consolidated its neighborhood schools, smaller neighborhood schools, into a regional school system. What to do with those former school buildings? And the most visible and prominent of those that remain is the Housatonic School that overlooks the village of the hamlet of Housatonic, which is part of the town of Great Barrington. And they've been wrestling with this for years, what to do with this school. And so now the Select Board is looking at another proposal for converting this building into something that is more
usable.
It's useful.
Yeah, because it's been lying empty and actually deteriorating.
Yeah.
For I don't know, since the new. Since Monument Valley, I don't know how long it is. It's 15 years or so since these new schools. A new campus was built with elementary, middle, and high schools.
Yeah, well, it's like many little New England villages. Each had its own little elementary school,
right.
and in Great Barrington, one of its little hamlets is Housatonic, and it had an elementary school, as did Great Barrington. And so once they got the regional school system organized, these buildings just became vacant.
Right, and they've been lying there. And this one is, particularly unfortunate because it is right in the center of the village of Housatonic.
Yeah.
The village of Housatonic was developed mainly for workers who worked in the mills, and it was its own little community. I mean, the mills are still there along the Housatonic River. They are largely unoccupied, and that's a whole other story. But there was a little center. I mean, a little commercial strip, and the school right in the middle of town. And the kids would walk to the school. There's a playground, and there's what's called the Housie Dome, which is an athletic facility. It's a big, it was for athletic games, and it's been empty now for 15 years or so, and no one has been able to develop it. And finally, the select board hired a consultant, made a film to show what the building was like, and solicited serious proposals, and there were 4. 2 of them have been dismissed, and there are 2 that are being considered, and they both propose turning the building mostly into housing. I mean, the first one, which was reviewed on October 24th, was going to build 14 residential apartments and have on the second and third floor, and have 5,500 square feet of commercial space. And now this second proposal wants to turn the building into a 10-unit apartment complex with rents at about $1,700 or $1,800 a month, or approximately a third of the median income. Now, this is supposedly affordable housing. It won't have any handicapped access because it doesn't have enough units to require. So, then that was one of the questions that the select board asked, whether it would have any handicapped units, and the law doesn't require a handicapped unit unless you have, I think it's 12 units or more.
But the question has been what to do with this
school, right.
This prominent school that overlooks the little village, and it's been an issue of what to do with these little elementary schools that were scattered about town.
Also, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a bigger building, but we've had over the years there are these tiny little schools that parents love and kids love, and they're expensive to maintain, but.
Well, they became out of date when the school district consolidated its elementary school system into a big campus.
Yeah,
one big campus. So
and of course, this is the larger issue that we've talked about from time to time. That there is a proposal to consolidate all the schools in Berkshire County now.
Yeah.
Or to at least consolidate all of the school districts in South County. So this there aren't enough kids.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
It's,
We have school buildings and not enough kids. So this is the attempt to figure out what to do with the Housatonic.
best, well, I call this major league recycling, when you can take an old building and recycle it and turning it into something useful. I want to move on to your next story because the principal of the W.E.B. Du Bois Middle School is leaving.
Oh yeah, that's really too bad. Ben Doran, he's a great guy, and we were lucky to have him for.
He's been here for 12 years.
Yeah, he's been here for 12 years, but he's decided to move on, and he was principal of the middle school, the W.E.B. Du Bois Regional Middle School, and he's going to leave by the end of the school year.
Right.
So it's going to be up to the school district to find a new principal for the middle school.
And Ben Doran is known for what he called radical inclusion. He introduced this concept to the school, and it's the idea that everybody goes to school together, no matter if you're rich, poor, white, black, disabled, or not disabled, or whether or not you're a language learner. All the children are together in the classes.
You didn't separate out.
Yeah, which represents real life.
Well, yes, it does actually. That's true. Right.
But it is, it sounds great, but it has been controversial because, previously people were sorted out by their perceived ability, and he is not setting them out, setting people apart by ability. Everybody has the same classes.
Right.
So, no more fast tracks or special classes for brighter students.
Now I want to go on to the next story because this is a disturbing story, and I've been following BCR, pardon me, for many years, and I was I think that they've done some amazing things over the years, and I see now by your story that it's in jeopardy. It's run by volunteers, of course, because of a lack of funds.
Right.
Yep. It's just this low power FM station in Great Barrington, and it's really a shame. But it's a difficult market, and it's been struggling to keep itself together for many years, but now it's come down to
and they don't need much.
No, they don't need much, but they need
roughly $2,000 a month or $24,000 a year.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say I knew what the figures were because I know what we need a year, and we need between $600,000 and $700,000 a year to do what we do with all our stations. And I knew that for like $25,000 a year, someone with deep pockets could step forward.
I know.
And just save. It's not $25,000 a month. It's $25,000 for a year.
Right.
And the great thing about low power community radio is it brings totally different programming that you're ever going to hear on any other radio station.
Right.
That's right, and it's community radio.
Yeah.
Really. And these, shout out to the volunteers that have been maintaining this WBCR all these years.
Yeah, they've got 33 volunteers who run it.
Yeah.
It is quite a variety of programming. I mean, anybody who wants to can have their own show. But you have to be able to produce it yourself. I mean, you have to be, it's not like you come in and the paid staff will set you up. I mean, a volunteer will guide you, but you have to be able to, run your own show. And so there are, Latin music. There's jazz. There's a political show called Red Radio. There's there are all kinds of eclectic music radio shows. So it's a great resource for the community. And I think that, part of the problem is that they really are not as well known as they could be. And I think if they were better known, they would have more volunteers. But getting better known takes money. So
Yeah.
they are having a fundraiser, though, on Wednesday, December 7th at 6 p.m. at the Egremont Barn in South Egremont. The tickets are $20. They'll be available at the event. And so, we'd like to urge people to go.
All right, we've got about a minute left, and I want to get on to the final story, and that's your story of the Berkshire Jazz Sprawl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is a huge undertaking. It's going to take place in a couple of days, and it'll be a 3-day event, calling on groups to showcase their music, their jazz music, and one of the things they're doing is that they have this 16-year-old piano phenomenon at Brentford Hall on the November 20th. And, Sunday night. Sunday
afternoon. Sorry.
Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. And he's supposed to be sensational.
He is a 16-year-old
Yep.
named Brandon Goldberg, who's already cut a couple of albums. He's about to cut his third album. He is, as David said, he's 16 years old,
Right.
a 16-year-old jazz pianist, and he's supposed to be fantastic.
Right. This is going to be at Brentford Hall in Lenox.
And it's almost sold out. They only are selling about 70 tickets. So, but there are, there's an organization called Berkshire's Jazz that's run by a man named Ed Bride, and they really are responsible for keeping jazz alive in Berkshire County, and they're doing it very well. They have programs throughout the year. And so now they're having their fall, their Berkshire's Jazz Fall Sprawl, S-P-R-A-W-L, Sprawl. And they've got 3 days of performances. I mean, you can find it, on our website, or at berkshiresjazz.org. It's a nonprofit, so it's .org. And very interesting jazz programming.
All right.
Right.
Well, we are out of time. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
But we got everything in anyway.
Yes.
Just, folks, this is just a fraction, really, of what you find at the BerkshireEdge.com.
Right.
Just a fraction. Guys, keep up the good work, and we'll speak to you next week.
Well, thanks. And have a good day, Marshall. It's so good to hear from you.
All right. Take care.
Bye. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
This is this week edition of the Berkshire Edge on air at the BerkshireEdge.com is where you can find them.